going on, everybody? It's your boy Phoenix here, and welcome back to a brand new Marvel Spider-Man 2 video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about how Marvel Spider-Man 2 could have some more versatility when it comes to the Rogues Gallery and when it comes to supervillain boss fights and stuff like that. So if you guys haven't already, make sure to go ahead and hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. And without a doubt, let's go ahead and get into it. So this article from the Game Rant says, Insomniac's own Spider-Man universe picks up about 8 years after Peter Parker first dons the webbed mask. And in that time, he's come up against a whole slew of villains from all possible tiers of the Rogues Gallery. But while players do get to face off against some of the hero's most memorable adversaries, there are still plenty of villains that didn't make the cut the first time around, paving the way for some fun appearances in Marvel Spider-Man 2. And though Insomniac's first outing laid the foundations of how supervillains should appear in the series, Marvel Spider-Man 2 would benefit from making one big change to that formula. Now, I honestly really do agree with that because, you know, we faced like a lot, because like in those 8 years, you know, of Peter being Spider-Man, we have no idea how his fights went with everybody in his Rogues Gallery. So that's the first thing. We have no idea how, you know, like for example, we have no idea how Peter fought Lizard the first time around. We don't have any idea how he fought Sandman the first time around. We just know that he fought them. And to see them bring that into light for Marvel Spider-Man 2, and along with the fact they laid the foundations of how supervillains should appear in Marvel Spider-Man, then it makes some sense why they're doing it. But following that, it says, during the course of Marvel Spider-Man's 20-hour story, players will encounter a surprisingly vast number of iconic Spidey villains, perfectly indicating that this Spider-Man is an extremely experienced one that is capable of taking down the kingpin of crime in just one morning. Soon after, the game's first big villain, Mr. Negative, appears along with his gang of inner demons. Now, I do have a feeling that we are going to get like a villain that's not going to be involved at some point in the game, because when we really think about it, Kingpin was involved at some point in the game. Because when you really think about it, like I said, Wilson Fisk was the one that had a connection to Mr. Negative, aka the leader of the demons. So it would make sense for us to have a villain that doesn't have anything to do with the story until like, you know, like an act down the line or something like that. But following that, it says, but then that's basically the player's lot until the final act of the game. Aside from a few brief appearances of C-lister, shocker, Marvel Spider-Man spends the vast majority of its runtime focused on Mr. Negative and the havoc he causes across New York City. It's only in the final act of the game that Marvel Spider-Man finally unleashes its proverbial can of villainous worms. Following a sudden mass prison escape at the raft, Spidey is cornered by the Sinister Six, this time made up of Rhino, Vulture, Electro, Scorpion, Mr. Negative, and Doc Ock. After an emotional cutscene, Spider-Man takes to the streets of New York to hunt down each member of the Six. Now, I 100% do agree with this because as you guys saw in that whole entire scene, Peter was in the hospital. He out of the hospital to hunt down the Sinister Six because they needed to be stopped. And on top of that, to mention for the fact that Doc Ock was a huge just surprise right there. Let me know what you guys think. But following that, ends up saying, coming right at the end of Marvel Spider-Man, this mission is to locate and defeat the Sinister Six. Feels just as desperate and intense to the player as it does to Spidey himself, giving the final act of the game an unrelenting pace, which in itself perfectly captures the typical Spider-Man experience, encouraging the player to push through the onslaught to save the day like Spidey would. But while this final act is near perfect, it does have a retroactive negative effect on the first two acts that came before it, as during subsequent playthroughs, these first 10 hours can feel a little dull by comparison. Now, I do honestly agree with this. The first 10 hours do feel dull because the game doesn't really start to ramp up until, you know, you fight the Sinister Six and you have all this stuff going down, and eventually you'll see everything else go down, which is crazy. But that's when everything just goes ahead and gets really good. Like towards, you know, towards that whole entire Sinister Six fighting act is when things get really insane. That's when things get really intense. But following that, it also says, instead of saving so many villains for a big third act gauntlet, Marvel Spider-Man 2 should space out its encounters a little more evenly. From what fans have seen from Spider-Man 2 so far, it seems as though it could be already doing this. It seems as though Kraven the Hunter will act as one of the primary villains of the game, appearing right from the start and probably remaining a threat until the very end. Venom is also set to appear, and the most likely time for him to show up is the halfway mark. Though, this is pure speculation at this point, but on top of those two primary villains, Marvel Spider-Man 2 should be peppering in supervillains throughout the game, including side quests based around members of the Sinister Six, Yuri Watanabe's new Wraith persona, or challenges based on someone like Taskmaster again. Now, I honestly really do think that, because as you guys saw in the map, Yuri did become Wraith, and it does really feel interesting. I can see, like I said, for Wraith, I can see, you know, us having some sort of mission where, or like some sort of side quest where it's similar to Taskmaster, or at the same time, they could spin it and do Tombstone. They could spin it and do like a Tombstone spinoff with it, is what I'm like, is like what I'm trying to figure out, because like you could have Peter going around, you know, and taking photos or whatever. Similar, I don't know if you guys have played TASM 2, but in TASM 2, you have the Carnage Killer audio logs, right? What are the odds that they could do that? But at the end of that, we find Yuri as Wraith. Let me know what you guys think about that description below, because to me that just sounds like a really, really beautiful W idea. But in your opinion, let me know what you guys think about that down below. Do you guys want to see them spread out villains throughout the whole entire game? Because in my opinion, they need to spread them out, because when we really think about it, in Marvel Spider-Man 2018, we got the chance to fight Scorpion and Rhino at once, and we also had to fight Electro and Vulture all at once. So in my opinion, they need to split them up evenly, because, you know, at some point, you know, since we are going to have Kraven the Hunter by himself, it seems like they're already doing that. We're going to have a whole bunch of villains split up, because we're going to have Kraven by himself and we're going to have Venom by himself. So I feel like since they're already doing that, I do agree that I have a feeling that's what they're doing now that I'm thinking about it. But anyways, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. And it's your boy Phoenix, and I'll see you guys later with a spectacular, Spidey, webtastic banger.